Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine. Giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
Hey, it's 175. 175. I'm Mike Milanez, Blaine Birch. You're listening to Mike and Blaine, where you can get all the beer, business, and BS you can stand in 1 hour. So,
make sure you like, subscribe, and follow, because we always forget to say that, because you don't want to miss an episode, because it's a full hour of, like Mike said, biz, beer, and BS.
That's right. Hey, but it's going to be good. 175, those are the numbers you love. For whatever reason, it's like, I think, you like the 25s, the 50s, the 75s, the 100s. You like those, like, really definitive breakpoints.
I like to point them out. Truthfully, I've never been that big on, like, numbers and days like that, to be completely honest, but I like to point them out because they're little goals, right? Like, we've reached some little benchmarks, so
it's 175. You ought to see people's faces when I say, they go, "You got a podcast?" Like, because we're not super popular, right? we're like the Rocky Horror Picture Show of podcasts, which nobody liked it at first, and then all of a sudden, like 10 years later, they go, "Oh, you guys got a podcast?"
Yeah, and there'll be no time when people will be sitting behind me in the office here throwing toast at me.
There you go. That's it. So. But I always tell them, I said 175. We're doing 175 right now. We're on our 5th season. Yeah. And they can't believe it. They go, "You got 175 episodes?" Because let's face it, most podcasts don't last to 100.
Don't last to 10, I think most. So yeah, we are. Yeah. It is like it drops off. It drops off so fast. But yeah, like the ones that make 100 even are a tiny fraction. So yeah, we've been going for a while here, and it's because it's a ton of fun.
Yeah. Well, if you didn't let me drink beer on the job, then I probably wouldn't be here.
Well, neither would I.
I'm just kidding you.
Beer is like literally number 2 of 3 in our name. It could have been first. Beer, business, and BS. Beer, BS, and business is probably more the order.
There you go. Hey, speaking of beer, what are you drinking? What's going on?
Well, so today we're going to talk about like how you do like great demos. And I can't remember the name. Like, you had a title for it, but it was basically how do you I don't know, what was it? Present yourself well, and that's how you make money. And anyway, what came to mind for me is like our software demos, and how do we do that well? And what I realized is to do a good software demo, you have to have radical empathy for your customer. And so I went with radical empathy, Pilsner. Oh shoot, I forgot to check. What brewery is this? Oh, Resident Culture. Hey, they're a good brewery. I forgot. I didn't even remember which one this was. So Resident Culture, Radical Empathy, Pilsner. Pilsner's 2 weeks in a row. Ooh, weird. But yeah, that's what I want. So what did you have?
Well, the title was Prove It, right? Prove It, and it's actions speak dollars. Instead of actions speak louder than words, I'm like going, actions speak dollars, right? And the whole thing to me was beyond just a demo of your product. There's a demo. Anytime you see it, you're more likely to be persuaded that it's right or true or factual. Yeah. So I want to go beyond just, you do a software demo. Hey, sometimes it's just you talking to a customer across the desk about a candy bar. I mean, it doesn't have to be just software. So I'm actually got a neighbor, Pat, one of our beer sponsors. Neighbor Pat came down yesterday. He goes, "You need beer." He goes, "I missed last week because you were in New Orleans, but you need beer." So he brought down an Oak Highlands Brewery beer, vanilla porter. I tell you what, he goes, and we have to sample it. So this is one that I actually had with Pat last night, and it is smooth. There's a chalk, because it's a vanilla porter. Think about a real chocolatey, like with a vanilla hit through it, super smooth.
Nice.
This thing is badass. I'm telling you, I really like it. And what's the brewery again? Oak Highlands Brewery. So I couldn't figure out where that was. Oh, Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, well, not Texas.
I should know that. Yeah. So I should have known that. It's at Highlands, right? The Highlands are in Texas. So So cool. I'm really excited about this one. So, and neighbor Pat, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, neighbor Pat, we've got a bunch of sponsors we got to go through, and we're kicking off the year. If you do want to sponsor an episode, super easy. Go to mikeandblaine.com and you can buy us a beer or multiple beers. Like we actually have Karen Hairston, who's actually in now for an entire year. So, if you guys want to be a beer sponsor, is the best, best value. I'm going to say best value sponsorship you can possibly do is $5 an episode, and we'll talk about you and mention you. And but you can tell us a bit about Karen.
Yeah, Karen's got the company called 3S Smart Consulting, right? So if you go to 3S, S is in Sam, 3SSmartConsulting.com, she can find hidden cash. She is the expert when it comes to optimizing cash flow inside your business. Now, how do I know that? Yeah, she's a client, right? So, I know she's been trading well, and I'll vouch for her because she is one of our certified Clear Path to Cash professionals. And I don't know what happened. She bought 5, and then she goes, "Oh my God, I want to be in for the whole year." So boom, then she just bought the rest of the year. So
nice, that's awesome. Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, right? Yeah, thanks, Karen. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and Rachel Barnett from Gentle Frog. So if you need to learn QuickBooks, you got to talk with Rachel Barnett. Go to gentlefrog.com, but you can also go to YouTube at Gentle Frog, and there are a ton of videos there that are going to walk you through everything you ever want to know about QBO. So definitely check out Rachel Barnett's website, Gentle Frog. Check out the videos and learn everything you can about QBO.
I mean, I thought we had a lot of content. Have you seen her library? The thing is ridiculously big. She's adding to it every week.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, Rachel, thank you again so much. And Devin, you got to tell us about Devin. You know Devin. I thank you, Devin. I haven't met you in person. So, all
right. So I've met Devin in person, right? I mean, I saw him I remember when I went to the Alabama LSU game, and I met Devin. We actually drank beer. Remember? I think we even took a picture of us and maybe put it on Facebook. I can't remember. One of, if not the biggest LSU fan I've ever met. I mean, this guy lives LSU. He's there. He works on campus. I think his skin has a purple tint. It's one of those things. He's that big of a fan. So thank you, Devin. I appreciate you, man.
And finally, Fresh Victor, who sent me a bunch of these terrific cocktail mixers. They're actually our cocktail, not with us loosely our beer sponsors, actually cocktail. These guys make terrific, fresh mixers to make any type of drink. You can put booze in, you don't have to. You can mix into some sparkling water with it, and it's delicious. It's fresh, and you got to try them. They're just so well done. So thank you so much, guys.
Very good. So I think we come and we prove it every single week. We prove it, right? We prove that we've lived the business lifestyle. We've proved that we have a dedication to others by sitting here trying to give, what we think are great stories and hopefully lessons that other people can do. Proving it is doing it, is showing it, is making the other person realize what they don't know and opening their eyes or otherwise. So let's talk about that today. Let's talk about just proving it. And I like how you started with software demos, because that's almost an expectation now. You almost got to show me what it is, because I've been tricked. I've been tricked with words, right? I'm not gonna lie. I've been tricked with a fancy website that doesn't produce.
Yeah, and it was that was the first thing that popped into my mind. I think when I read your brief there, and of course it's also front of mind for me and for our team all the time. But it, like you said, it is much more than a demo or a software demo or a meeting with the customers. It's how do you present, the business all the time and get your message across and make sure people understand, how you're different, the benefits you bring compared to everybody else on the planet, and how you're going to solve their problem and do a really good job of it. But you have to be legit when you do it. Like, it's got to be real.
What's funny is that my first introduction to being in a software company, you got to realize I had zero experience, none, right? I'm like, I want to get into software. Why? Because you can scale, and everybody was making crazy money in software. So I'm like, I'm going to go be in software. They go, you got a computer science degree? No. I barely took any science, let alone computer science. I took a computer class. I went to computer camp in 7th grade back in 1980s. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. So I had a lot to learn, so to speak. But I'm going to tell you this, back then, the team that I got with had worked for Microsoft for, at that point in time, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, they had already built all the things that we use. One of the guys worked on the Xbox as well, too, right? So, I mean, he knew way more about anything that I knew in computers. Well, the first time I saw the product, right? The first time, this is Finnegraph, who I'm talking about, of course. The first time I saw the product, I didn't know I wasn't looking at the product. They had built a PowerPoint prototype. This is before all the prototyping software you have now. We're talking about 2011, 2012, back in there. Just a prototype of the software where they could click on a certain point on the screen and it would move and behave and act like the software did. It's craziness. Now, I'm sure that was the genesis and the origin story of all the prototype software that's out there now, but that's how they did it. They can make a PowerPoint screen look like a computer screen, just and move the mouse and click on things, and it would move to the next feature or the next screen. And I couldn't tell the difference. Yeah, right. I couldn't tell the difference because I didn't know anything about software. But I'm like going, that's where the origin, that's where I learned the term vaporware too. I'm like, oh my God, wait a second. You guys demo this and people actually think they're looking at the product and the product's not finished or not built or it doesn't do exactly that. So the vaporware thing is what was a real term that I learned in 2012. So 10, 12 years ago now, 13 years. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. We've, we used to talk about the odd startup that was usually it was a bit derogatory when you're talking about vaporware because it was a bit of it's smoke and mirrors and it's never going to go anywhere. So that's usually the way the term that I've heard used was a little bit more negative than just that. Where with Cinegraph Cash Flow Tool, that was a great way to prototype and actually move forward rather than something that's never saw the light of day, right?
Well, and vaporware at that point in time was, it's not going to work. It doesn't work. But here's the thing. They were not demoing Cash Flow Tool at the time is the original Finnegraph product, right? So it's like 6 years before Cash Flow Tool. But here's why I liked it. Here's what I liked about it is because when I talk about prove it and demo, they sold the dream, to me, right? It wasn't me as a customer. It was me as somebody coming in to work with them saying, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're building. And I could see the finished product even before it was even 10% of the way done. I'm like, oh, I know where this is going. And then my brain started, because you got to realize they brought me in to talk about it, to sell it, to create relationships. Well, if you're going to create a relationship in a software company, I got to sell the dream. Here's what we're trying to do. Here's the problem we're trying to solve. Here's how we're going to sell it. Oh man, I got hyped up off of a PowerPoint, not even the product yet.
Yeah. And that kind of shows the difference between, again, coming back to sort of software demo, just kind of walking through, click here, do this, click here, do that. Like you said, it doesn't offer a solution, doesn't paint a dream, doesn't share kind of your worldview and how you view things and why it would matter to them. And, and those are things that we're always thinking about. How do you get that feel into our conversations with potential clients? And so that, they understand how you can help them, where it's not just, they've got to interpret what they're seeing. You have to get that message across of here's how we're different and here's why it would matter to you, which is why I picked that Radical Empathy beer today, because every software demo we start with essentially, tell me about yourself. Tell me about the problem you're trying to face. Tell me about what you're trying to solve. And it doesn't take long. It's not like we're asking them Q&A for half an hour. You can learn a lot in 5 minutes. And And then you can put, you kind of have the earmarks you're going to hit, but you can put it into context and you can hit their concerns, right? So we've got to remember, it's not about us, it's about them.
Man, it's like you were sitting in, my suitcase or whatever last week while I was traveling around, because what I was trying to do is, part of the new feature or pillar of my program is teaching people how to communicate about these cash flow concepts, right? It's a communication thing. And some of that is, what type of conversation are you in? Are you in a sales conversation, or are you in a consulting, ongoing engagement type of conversation? Because I look at it differently, even though I've structured all of my conversations in this framework to pretty much act the same way. So what you see during the sales call is really what you see during the engagement, right? I'm the same guy in both. I'm really following a script, even though it looks like a natural conversation. But the biggest goal of the sales conversation is to do what you just said. Find that issue. And the way I described it to a group in New Orleans last week was, it's not about the problem you see, it's about the problem they feel, right? That's what you want to talk about, right? You might see, whatever they show you or tell you, you might see, oh, I know exactly what this is. I see it over here. And I always go back to the show Hoarders. When you walk up, you know that there's a problem because you can see stuff everywhere. But that's not what the person inside who's created the problem really feels. You have to address that first before you can address all the stuff in the yard or in the living room. And so to me, that's it. You got to find what that burning issue is that they feel, not what you see. So I like how you brought that up.
But I will say that finding their issue doesn't mean we have an answer for it.
Yeah.
And if we don't have an answer for it, we don't have an answer. And I can think of a couple demos in the last, I would say the last couple months, because I think these were before the new year, probably, December-ish kind of thing. I can actually think of 2 demos that I did. And I asked them, I said, so, tell me about yourself, your company, or your clients, and what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. And they told me, that is what we do. And so I literally just said, you know what? That's great to know. I probably can't actually help you because we don't do this, we don't do that. But I'll tell you what, if you're open to it, I'm happy to show you what we do just in case the problem comes up. And then I still went in and said, this is what we do, but this is why. This is how we solve this problem. And the reason I remember them was because both of them went, holy crap, I think I need that. But it wasn't something that they shared. They didn't know what we did. And it was kind of like, well, I was kind of thinking I needed this, but when he showed me that, I'm like, oh my God, I need that. So it was really interesting. So it wasn't like, you don't go through the process to figure out, well, I'm just going to parrot back whatever they say. No, it's like, I want to put it in context of what we do, and how it can solve their problem. But I'm not trying to sell something we don't have. Like I'm more than these. Nope. This is what we do. This is how we approach things. And this is why. And, it goes a lot further because if you try and fake it, they'll know it. And it'll spiral down the drain so fast. But if you're really, you listen to them, but you're really honest with what you do and how you solve things, it takes their guard down because they're like, I'm not trying to sell you anything. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But with their guard down, they're open to seeing what you're delivering, right?
Yeah, I can tell that you're on your front end of your trip down your 6 months in Arizona. I can tell you're on the front end of it. How? Because your O slipped out. Your Canadian O slipped out when I was listening for an ah, and you said O, like process instead of process.
I have heard a couple of you must be from Canada over the last few weeks, and I actually noticed because I'm like, oh, usually Mike's told me I've shifted into my Americanese by now, so I guess it'll be later in the year when I right before we head back to Canada, I'll finally have converted over, get a bit of a drawl going.
Yeah, there you go. We need you back. We need you back to normal.
I'll work on it.
No, but you're exactly right. And part of what I was trying to do was like going, I think in the consulting process, nobody wants to hear about my packages. Not until you know what I do, right? Nobody wants to know, oh, I've got a basic, I got a standard, I got a professional. Here's a monthly fee and here's what you get. That's the worst sales pitch I've ever been part of, right? If somebody just goes into the packages and what you get, like this versus that.
Yeah.
If you listen to me, all right, me being the customer in this little role play, if you listen to me and I tell you that I don't know if I'm going to make payroll, and instead of showing me your packages of how you can solve it, I say, let's just see what we can do right now. And I pull open my app and I take your numbers and put it in there and go, oh, here's some things we can do right now. I mean, you don't even have to hire me. Here's something I can give you right now to go do.
Mm. Yeah.
I get more clients by starting there than any other way I've ever sold anything, right? And I've been doing sales for quite a long time now. And every time I show somebody that I know how to do it, they always say, I need your help. Because, A, I'm different. You got to remember, everybody else does the same way. They all take the same sales class. They all take I do this first, this second, this third, and they get to the demo only after they qualified somebody. I don't give a shit if you're qualified. If you come to me and you got a problem, that's qualified. Let me show you how I can help you.
Yeah. Like if I'm on the call, if I'm already spending time, I'm like, they might know someone. Like, that's what I'm thinking, right? And I'm like, no, I'm still, I want to learn about you. I'm going to share what we do. Even if you don't have a fit for it, I just want you to know about us. And I want you to have some sort of connection. So it's, and after the fact, it might be like, okay, they probably weren't the best fit, but then I may not be doing as much follow-up and things like that, but that's different, right?
Yeah, mine might be a 20-minute meeting for somebody I know is not going to be the right guy or girl or customer, client, rather than 45 minutes. When we had 30 scheduled, I'll spend 45 minutes with somebody that's the exact right person, right? And vice versa. You just manage your time a little bit better. Say, listen, appreciate your time. I mean, who else do you know, right? Where do you think this fits? You know somebody that has this problem right now?
Yeah,
they might know somebody.
Yeah, very good question to ask. That's one I always forget to ask. And then it's a light, easy way to see if you can get a referral, right? So that's pretty smart.
Well, I had a sales trainer one time tell me, it says, you only can get, I think it's 4 answers. That there's only 4 acceptable answers in a sales call. It's yes, bye. No, not for me, right? You have to learn a lesson. That person has to teach you something that you can, not get pinned into a corner or something you did wrong in the process or whatever, or get a referral. But when people say, I need to talk to somebody else, right? Let me think about it. You didn't do a good enough job on the call. If they can't make one of those 4 decisions pretty quickly, right? Or you can't make one of those decisions because they're not coming back. I mean, chances are they're not coming back. If they do, it's because they figured out that they do really have that problem, but they had to figure it out. You didn't help them figure it out. They had to figure it out later.
Yeah. And I know and you can tell when it's a good fit. When it's a good fit, I'm really surprised if they don't ask about pricing and they don't ask about next steps, because usually that's what happens. Like, I can always suggest those, but man, it's pretty rare. The best thing for me is when, we're kind of get to the demo and then we get to the end and they start asking, what, how does this work? Well, let me show you.
Yeah.
Oh, so what do I do next? And they're literally asking for next steps. And like, well, here's what we're going to do, right? Here's how we can take that next step, right?
Even if they don't, when you show them, like in my process, when you show them that you can solve the problem, and they go, wow, man, that's super cool. And there's some buying signal. I'm going to call it a buying signal. When there's some buying signal, the next thing I say is, well, what do you think we should do next? I'll say it because there's only one logical thing to do next. Well, how do I get it? Or what do I do? And then boom, I'm right into pitching. Now here's my memberships. Here's my packages, right? Because we're already to the point where they know, or at least they're confident enough to make a decision that I can help them.
Yeah.
Right. So super cool, man. But it isn't just, isn't just that. Anytime I see something, it's better to me. Anytime. I believe it or not, most people don't know about fracking. Don't know about it. I could tell you right now what it is, and most people are like, oh, we're going to frack, and everybody says that's bad. I don't know. I didn't know what it was, and really, it was Landman. Believe it or not, the show Landman that taught me about fracking. My dad taught me about it, but then I learned more about it from Landman. How they drill down and then horizontal in between the layers of shale, and they push water into it, right? And they're trying to force this oil out of the rock. I'm like going, huh. But it actually makes things unstable underneath and kind of moves and shifts things around. So there is some bad to it, but there's also a ton of good to it as well, right? So I'm like going, huh. But having to see the picture, it was the pictures of it, of the line and what happens in between the layers. That was proving it to me of what they were doing. Before that, it was just a word. So proving it is showing somebody what it does and what, and I can make a decision. Is that good or is that bad? Well, I think in that case, there's both good and bad.
Yeah. Well, that showing is proving. That's what's so much about what we do at Dry Run is we give something that the CFO can walk into a management meeting, and we hear it all the time. I need them to see this. We hear those words all the time. I need them to understand this. And we give them the ability to go on and show this is what I need you to see, right? But it's interesting because it's that seeing is believing and seeing is proving. The message has to be simple though too. Like it has to be the right message. And like I always talk about when I'm talking with especially finance pros, every once in a while they'll come up, I'll say, well, a lot of times, especially if it's kind of a CPA trained or CPA mentality, is CPAs like to show everything. It's like they'll have a map of the entire province. There's my Canadian coming in. And you're trying to show them a 5-mile trip, and they'll have an aerial view and satellite view and everything is marked on but it doesn't really tell you where to go. The business owner, the CEO, all they want is a napkin that shows a line, go up to the tree and turn right and go down a mile. Yeah. And that's the tricky part is like taking it as simple as hard. So you take all this information, go, how do I get it down to the right level? It's got to have enough information so they know where to turn and how far to go. But it's like just the facts, nothing more than what you need to make that decision, because as soon as you start getting all this other stuff in, it starts to get clouded.
That's exactly right. My whole program is built around bite-sized, consumable chunks of information. It's these little tools, tips, tricks, traps. It doesn't matter. All these things that you put together, and you can tell a story, but it also gives you as the advisor a library of stuff. Oh, he needs this, where that other customer needs that, where you're not putting every customer through the same process. Showing it, man, too many people think that if I show you what I do, then you don't need me. It's exactly the opposite. I can show you everything I do, and you still think I have more. Right? It's like that's the way it is. When you have authority and you have you have that that trusted advisor status. Everything I learned is the result of 20 plus years. You can't learn it all in 2 months or 1 week or one session with me. You just can't do it, because there's a breadth of experience I've enveloped all of this stuff in.
Yeah. And
that's
you're
the way
communicating it.
Yeah. But that's what these trusted advisors should be doing. They have the same value. People don't pay for your math. They don't pay for your ability to run QuickBooks. They pay for your ability to tell them what it means and what to do next.
Exactly. The insight. That's what if they're paying for the mechanical part, they're not going to pay very much.
Dude, I got to tell you,
worth as much.
I don't know about you. I have been on fire today. Super fire. Focused. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm just dialed into everything I do. Even right now, I think I'm dialed into energy. I'm dialed into focus. I'm just, and it's a calm energy. I'm not hyped up. I'm just a super calm energy. You know why?
I know exactly why.
Guess what I've been doing? Magic Mind, right? So I got this Magic Mind right here matter of fact, let me tell you a story. Somebody in this house is stealing my Magic Mind. Because I'm like going, there's a couple of them missing that I used to have yesterday. And it's not who you think. It's not Courtney. It's the 18-year-old that lives in the house with us, right? That is heading off to school still. So she has figured out that this. Yeah, I'm telling you. So this stuff is good enough right now that she goes, yeah. And she did both of them. There's two different versions. One of them is the one I took this morning, this Magic Mind, and I'm just dialed in. She took that before she goes to school. She takes another one when she gets home for the sleep. That's what she did the last couple of days, and she's hooked. So anyway, I don't know. You know about Magic Mind. They're our new sponsor.
Yeah, they're a new sponsor, and they're back as a sponsor too. And one of the reasons they came back is because right now, the 24-hour pack of Focus and Sleep, so you got the 2 shots, are bundled up, and for the first time, you get 45% off. But to get the deal, you got to go down to our show notes, click on that link, and make 2025 the year you build your mental resilience, improve your sleep, and wake up with clarity, all with Magic Mind. So thanks again, Magic Mind. It was we appreciate you supporting the show.
Right on. So, and believe it or not, I actually like the taste of this stuff.
Yeah, no, it tastes
nobody
good.
says
Like
nobody says that, but it tastes good. Yeah, it tastes good. So, all right. So back this proof. All right. So the cash flow cowboy Larry says, "Hey, you need to bring up this thing you did in New Orleans, right? Because it's the prove part." So I have this, and it's hard to do. I mean, it's a prop gag, right? I say a prop gag. It's a physical gag. It's like, if I told you what Chevy Chase does in a movie, or if you see him do it, it's different, right? So think about that. All right, so think about that. But he says you got to describe it, you got to do it, because it's one of the best examples that he's seen for, I guess, for the principle I'm going to talk about. First of all, in the book, Don't Tell Me What to Do, I think it is anybody's, not just yours. I think it is anybody's natural instinct to resist, to say no, to go, right? That's a defense mechanism we all have, is no is first, right? It's not yes. We're not open to everything in the world. We're like, no, convince me, help me get there.
And it's funny because the older and more experienced you get, the more you get like that too. So, so if you're selling to an older, like a more mature group, it's even more important.
Hey, you know what's so funny is that the first year that Courtney and I were together, we had the year of yes, which means we were just going to say yes. And it led to so many cool experiences on boats and towers and rotating restaurants, and just whatever people says, hey, you want to do this? Instead of saying no, we said yes. That was an expensive year. And it was an exhausting year, but damn it was fun. But okay, besides that, here's what I did, right? So my whole thing is that when you're consulting, when you're, trying to work with somebody else or talking to somebody else, doesn't matter. I always say, hey, if we're going to work together, where are we going? Right? So that kind of gives you the goal. Here's what I want to do next. Well, I did the same thing in this live seminar. I brought one of the participants up to the front of the group, the class, we'll say. I say, hey, when this is over, like in the next 2 hours, so I did a 2-hour seminar. In the next 2 hours, what do you want to do? Because we'll be done. He goes, well, I want to go back to the room. I want to go to the bar. I want to get something to eat, all that. I said, okay, first thing we got to do, though, is get out that door, right? He goes, yeah. I say, well, what are some ways we could get out the door? He goes, oh, because the tables were in a U shaped. He goes, we could go left around the tables. We can go right around the tables. We can go over the table, under the table. I say, which one would you want to do? Well, I want to go to the right because I always go to the right. I say, let's do it. So I just followed him. Now think about it. That's how I consult. We both know what the goal is. I had him come up with some possible solutions. And if my clients can't come up with one, I'm say, well, do you think we could do this? Or you think we could do that? And I start giving them solutions. He had 4 solutions. And then I said, what do you want to do next? And he says, I want to go to the right. The right's going to get me there just as easy as the left. Right? So, okay, we'll go. So that was me giving him autonomy to make the decision to do the one thing we both wanted to do, which is leave the room. So as we got to the door, I said, okay, stop, come back to the front. I said, here's not what I want to do. I want you to put your hands up in front of you. And he puts his hands up in front of him, facing out just like this. I put mine in a ball of make a fist, and I put it against his hands, and I start pushing against him. What do you think he does?
Push it back.
Push it back. I didn't tell him to push back. I didn't tell him to resist. I didn't tell him to do anything. I just told him to put his hands up, and his natural instinct, without being told what to do, is to brace himself and say, no, we're not going any farther. So if I wanted to push him out of the room, I wasn't going to. So the whole picture was, hey, if I just talk to you for a brief couple of seconds and we both agree that we can get out the door, we both agree that's where it is. But if me as the advisor, I try to push you into something and tell you what to do and make you do something, you're going to resist, and you won't even know you're doing it until you're just doing it. And you won't even know why you're doing it. You're just resisting me.
Yeah.
So it was the visual, and that's where the cash flow cowboy, Larry Weinstein, he goes, that, in front of the whole crowd, he goes, that was the most powerful statement you could have made, was people have a natural instinct to resist you. You have the power to demonstrate. My demonstration was, you're going to resist, and I won't tell you what's going to happen or what's going on. You'll just do it automatically. What do you think?
Yeah, clever. Well, it's such a good illustration that we're just like BSing on this show, and I'm literally like absorbing that and thinking I'm going to write a note down on that, because it's one of the things that I struggle with a lot, especially when as a business owner and the CEO, that when we're under pressure and when there's push from the outside, I tend to push. And it's something that I have to work on, is slowing down and asking questions and engaging. And we've had we've been working a lot on our positioning lately. I've been going through these sessions on positioning. They've gone really well. We've learned so much, and it's worked really well as a team. And it's such a good example of, obviously, awesome. This, I got to mention that book up again, because I rarely say, go get this book and read it. A friend of mine, it took him twice. He kept recommending it. Finally, I read it. And I read it and went, this is unbelievable. She's not a sponsor or anything. She's never even heard of us. Trust me. That book is unbelievable. And then she has a follow-up book on sales, and it really is about building out your sales approach and demos and things. So that's our next thing we're going to do. But I found that book so useful. And a big part of it was the timing. It was very, very timely for us. It was something that we were already working on. We needed a bit of the guidance and the structure to do it well. And anyway, we worked on it as a team, and it worked really well. And it's when I can feel exactly what you're saying, is if I push, or if someone else pushes on me, it's my reaction to push back, and you can kind of see how that happens, right? And it's a good reminder to, if you feel like coming, you step back and go, no, let's take a different approach here.
You know what's funny is that I have a little black book, and it's not what you guys think it is. It's not the little black book of phone numbers. It's of that's the only one that's been there. It's all these little tidbits that really make an impact in my life, right? So I'm sure my kids, after I pass, will go, what the hell was Dad doing? He's just writing stuff down, because it made an impact on me, and I wanted to remember them for other people. Too often we hear it and go, oh, that's cool. That's going to really change my life. And then we forget about it. So I bought this little black book to keep up with those type of things. I wrote one down from her book, right? Obviously awesome. And I'm like going, I'm already doing that, but she verbalized it so well that I've kind of implemented it now in the way that I speak to people. And what she said was, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. It's pretty powerful, right? When you change the way you look at things, and it seems so simple, but here's what I tell people, right? I'm like going, when you're looking at your business and you're looking at the financials, because that's really the result. I mean, you're in your business, you feel your business, but you don't really look at it. Mm-hmm. I said, you have to look at your business through the eyes of the financials. And the difference is, when I talk to a banker, they look at it one way. When I talk to an accountant, they look at it another way. When I talk to the business owner, they're looking at it yet a third way. So what I've done is kind of combine that into a more choreographed view of a financial statement that satisfies all three at once in a weird way. And what's happened is, what I see in a financial statement is way different than the banker. It's different than the accountant, and it's different than business owners. So they go, holy shit, I didn't think of that. It's just that we all have the same piece of paper in front of us. When you change the way you look at things, you see different things.
Yeah. There's a lot of depth to that. And it's important, because you start getting tunnel vision a lot of times in business, and you can start, like, especially if like right now, it's a challenge out there for a lot of businesses. And I think what happens is, you need to be able to step above it, get the 20,000 foot view, look a little further ahead, look a little wider. And what happens is, you're under pressure, you start to get tunnel vision. And so it's an interesting, that wasn't really the context in the book necessarily what I'm talking about that she brought up, but it's just, it applies to a lot of things, right?
No, but isn't that funny? We're both reading, or actually, I bought the book when you told me about it during our meeting last week or a week before. And that's the first thing that stood out to me. And yet you got something different out of the book. That's one of the things I love about any of our books. My favorite thing out of your book is the bus analogy. I use that constantly, because it's the best visual I can give somebody about the reason why you forecast. Is the farther you see the bus away, the more options you have. It's a fantastic just connection to what I'm doing today and why I need to do that, the forecasting.
I should name the book Stepping Out in Front of the Bus. It's probably the best analogy in there.
Yeah, but you named it Pandemic Cash Flow, and everybody thought it was about COVID, and you predicted COVID. You probably started COVID.
The book started it. Something in that book. It preceded COVID. I actually had to change the name. If you're looking for it, it's now called Chronic Cash Flow, because everyone thought it had something to do with the pandemic. I'm like, no, it was the name of a book. Unfortunately, it was a year before suddenly that word got suddenly in front of everyone's top of mind, I guess. So,
hey, you better be careful. The robots are listening, and they're going to think you started COVID.
Yeah, this is the guy. He got a book.
He wrote a book. He predicted the whole thing. He told us about it ahead of time. He's forecasting. Yeah. He's forecasting COVID.
Yeah.
Hey, can you believe I don't have to give up the Mike Milan Bowl decanter? It's staying here. It's staying here till next year.
I was following those games, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I can't even watch football right now because we just stream everything, and I haven't got an NFL streaming thing. But we're out all Sunday, we're out all the time, so I never catch the games anyway. But I was following both your games because I thought, well, if there's a Mike Milan Bowl, like Heather and I are going to go sit in a pub somewhere and watch the game. And then I was a little disappointed that there wasn't, because I thought, though, now it's kind of ruined our chance to go sit and watch it. But
he had his chance in September and blew it. That's how the decanter ended up in San Antonio. So you got to realize he held this thing for years. And just luck of the draw, luck of the day, and ended up in my house. And I thought, And Courtney was rooting against me. She's like going, I want you to send that decanter back. I'm like going, back to Baltimore. I'm like going, what? No,
What?
that thing's never going back. It's never going back. But it'll go back if we lose because, it's a bet.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. All right, so what is one thing that you thought was a fail as a demo? When was it the worst? Like, oh, you shouldn't have showed us that. Do you have an example?
Someone demoing to me or me demoing to someone?
Yeah, or vice versa. Yeah, either way.
The one that just as soon as you said the demo, and it's not really a demo, but it's the same thing, was the very first, and this is going back years now, but I still remember the very first pitch I did to an investor with my deck. And remember, to raise money, man, I probably had 60 of these pitches. By the end of it, I could wake up middle of the night and I would do my pitch, just sit up in bed and just right into it and just polish, right? That first one was a disaster. It was just a train wreck. I didn't, I thought I had it set up right, but I didn't, I didn't hit the high notes. I didn't paint the picture. My deck kind of sucked. It was, I can still feel the tension because I'm like, this is not going well. The funny thing is the guy actually became an investor, so maybe he felt sorry for me, but somehow the message must have got through. But that's the one, product demos and stuff, I can't think of as much as that one, where I had to pitch this and it was just, it felt like it was, that I hit all the wrong notes somehow.
I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but it seemed like every time I was in a big pitch and it had a software demo attached to it, there was some bug, and either I caught it and just kind of overlooked it. We're not going to talk about that one because I don't like the way it looks. Or it just failed in front of people. And I don't know what, I remember the very first time I'm on with 3 executives of a bank, and I'm pitching the Finograph stuff, and it just won't work. And there's something about the heat that went.
I know.
I could feel the embarrassment just go all the way up my face to the top of my head.
Yeah, I can feel that now. And the thing is, I know I've had sales professionals and experts tell me you never do a live software demo, and we do every freaking time. I haven't done anything but a live demo in years. And you know what? I will say the one thing, unless my internet goes down mid-time, I can't even think of one out of hundreds and hundreds. It just works. So but it's proof is in the pudding, right?
Hey, the thing is that I've caught more bugs and made the product better because I did that.
I glossed over a few here too. I was like, oh shit, what happened there? In my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll write it down. I mean, there was one today in my product. I'm writing it down as I'm still doing this. I'm like, check this.
Yeah, exactly. I've done that on to Slack and was like, hey, this is weird to turn color. It's something weird.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's not that the product's bad. It's that it's not what I expected it to do. Or I've even changed not the whole UI, but I've changed the way things look, feel, act, because I'm now doing it in front of people, and it's awkward. Like,
awkward to demo. Yeah, if it's awkward to demo and awkward to explain, it's you have to address it. And I honest to God, ask my co-founder, I drive him up the wall. In fact, right now I know my name is, spit with him because we're doing a whole bunch of UI stuff right now because of it's just a little too hard to explain, a little too hard to demo. And it's not about the demo, but it's that's where you realize, man, it's hard to explain. They're not going to be able to do it easily enough. And I just make it miserable at times just because it's we got to do it, dude. This is how it goes, right?
So I talked to a founder today and I said, hey, he launched an app in September. I'm going to say September. But before that, they had some other things. They have a concept that they were doing, spreadsheets and other things like that. But they launched the app. And I say, hey, how's it going? right? Because I want to know 6 months later, in 6 months of, where you're at after you launch. You're like, you kind of know if the market like it, don't like it. He goes, Mike, I wasn't part of like the build. We hired an outsourced team. They built it. I was told it was okay. I didn't check it as much. I just went through like the demo thing that people did and was happy with it. We launched it. I used it. And I'm like going, I don't know what to do. like, holy shit, you're the founder and you don't know what to do. There was a miss there, just meaning if you don't know what to do and you teach and talk about the subject, nobody's going to know what to do. So in some ways, that demo of him he was just demoing it, just using it, just trying it, was the best experience he could have had with his own product.
Yeah, you learned a lot from that because you can kind of play with it, but what happens is when people start asking questions, and the questions they're gold. That's where you learn, like they're gold.
Yeah.
I had a CFO come in the other day. I got to tell you, this guy, we're 2 seconds into the conversation, like, oh no, because 99.9%, like I'm talking easily over 99 of my conversations and demos, I'm just really enjoying. The people are great. I'm just like, it's almost easy, right? And this guy came in and I'm like, he just seemed angry. He just seemed really angry and just kind of impatient and everything. And I kind of said, well, tell me about yourself. And then he sort of went into a rant. And then when I started doing the demo, he stopped me like 30 seconds in and kind of chewed me out a little bit. And then I'm like, so that's an interesting point. So I took the opportunity. I just grilled him. I just asked him, I said, no, can you explain that? Well, can you tell me more about this? Tell me about it. And then, it's all of a sudden like, oh, and I got out of that meeting. I went straight to my co-founder and I said, Mark, this is like, check this out. I said, this is what this guy said. And it's like, it is not like just a simple thing, but it's interesting and really fundamental. And he just went, oh, because the one thing that this guy had was he was really, I don't even know if he was good at communicating until I just kept hammering him and asking questions. And in the end, we learned so much from that. And I'll tell you, I learned more from that one than the other 99, where it just felt like they just, like, this is awesome. Like, you don't learn from that. It's nice to hear, but you don't learn from it, right?
What's interesting about that is you don't even care if you get the sale because you're like this is gold. It's going to change the company.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, sometimes those things are like, sometimes they're big things, but sometimes it's like, it's a big thing, but it's kind of a small thing. Like it's a little bit of friction, but it's friction in front of everybody that I never saw. Right. And so it's really interesting. That was quite an interesting conversation. It was funny is I felt like I was grilling this guy because I switched it around and I'm kind of like asking question after question and I'm kind of interrupting him because he likes to talk. But when we got to the end, he seemed to really appreciate it. He says, yeah, call me anytime. And I just thought that was really cool too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was quite something,
Hey, man, that went fast, huh? That went fast. 175. Yeah, I just happened to look up. I'm like, oh man, if I go on to the next topic here, we're way over. So, hey, I want to appreciate you. I want to take 175 and say I appreciate you. Looking forward to season 5, right? And if you haven't checked us out, if you haven't liked, you haven't subscribed, you haven't went to Mike and Blaine, you haven't did those things, you're missing out. Just go do it right now because I think there's gold in every episode. Stick with us. We got more for you.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.